Hello everyone, welcome to English for Football. My name's Ross. Today's focus is going to be on Jose Mourinho's Tottenham and their recent game against Leicester City. So Tottenham lost 2-0 to Leicester and had some issues in attitude and making chances. So why did this happen and what can they do to improve in the future? Let's focus on the setup. So Tottenham's defensive line drops deep. Højbjerg and Sissoko screen the defensive line. So Lo Celso in defensive transition, he needs to support the midfield in a 4. In attacking transition, he needs to drive forward with the ball. In defensive transition, Sissoko has to cover for Aurier if he steps out of the defensive line. Up top. So Kane is the focal point of the counter-attacks. Son plays off Kane and will look to get into the channels. And NDOMBELE is playing as a 10 in the attacking transition. This is not his best position. So bypass the centre. When building from the back, Tottenham push the full-backs wide and their attacking midfielders into the front line. And they tend to go long. So Lo Celso pushes wider and NDOMBELE gets close to Kane. Mourinho wants to go longer rather than play through the middle. And Højbjerg and Sissoko sit back and provide defensive stability for the defensive transition. So the pressing system. Tottenham press one man at a time, spare players block the passing lanes, and they only engage when opposition approach the halfway line. So Tottenham players press when the ball comes into their zone to force Leicester back. They have 5 players waiting. Tottenham wait for the opposition to make a mistake with the ball, and once the mistake is made, Tottenham players drive forward to gain goal scoring opportunities. Tottenham's strategy is to press with one player at a time until they approach the halfway line. Now Son goes to press and NDOMBELE stops his, and now Højbjerg goes to press. Son and NDOMBELE stop as it's not their zone. When the opposition are forced back, that is when Tottenham shut off the passing lanes and wait for the mistake. On this occasion, Leicester find a way out, but this is the pressing strategy Jose uses. Tottenham continue to use the one-man press even when they are defending deep. NDOMBELE goes first, and now Lo Celso goes out to his man, whilst NDOMBELE cuts off the passing lane. NDOMBELE presses the last defender, and Sissoko covers the man that he was pressing. Now Kane goes to press the last man. When Leicester move the ball back, this is when Tottenham increase the intensity of the press, waiting for the mistake, and Tottenham force Leicester into the mistake. Now they can take advantage with the counter-attack. Tottenham's counter-attacks rely on alert players, and Reguilón was too slow to support, and Son could not get control of the ball. The counter-attack fails. In attacking transition. So Tottenham get the ball into the front line as quickly as possible. They tend to play for second balls, and sometimes they bypass the midfield if it's congested. So when Tottenham win the ball back, they intend to get the ball into the front line as quickly as possible, and they bypass the midfield. The ball needs to find one of the front 3. In this situation, NDOMBELE has to get the ball under control, but this kills time. He needs to be turning as quick as he can to set the counter. If the pass was better, NDOMBELE would have had a run at the defence with a 3v3 situation. The passes needed to be better for this tactic to really work. And this is a theme that Tottenham are guilty of in the first half. So a wasted chance and a 3v3 situation suddenly becomes a 5v2 because NDOMBELE had to get the ball under control first. So counter-attack problems. Tottenham win the ball to start a counter-attack and Leicester have 2 players shielding the defence. Tottenham need to draw these players out, but both NDOMBELE and Lo Celso are behind the ball and Tottenham are forced back, and the possible counter-attack breaks down. NDOMBELE does not show himself. We will focus on him more. So TANGUY NDOMBELE, playing as a 10 in this system, and he needs to get the ball in between the 2 defensive lines. The goal is for him to support Kane and Son. So breaking the lines. Because NDOMBELE is press resistant and very good at breaking defensive lines, Mourinho uses him higher up the pitch. He's used to playing as an 8. Because of NDOMBELE's ability to attract defenders and retain the ball in tight situations, he is used in this role to get into spaces between the lines. If Ndombele can get into this space highlighted, he has multiple options. This is the objective when playing against compact defences. Taking the initiative, Ndombele has the skills to carry the ball and beat the defensive line, but he's being a little bit too passive in this game. Here, Ndombele could move into the space and try to engage the Leicester players, which may free Son. Ndombele is still too passive and could have tried to receive the ball here. And when Ndombele finally does move, he moves into a congested area, and it's harder to make the Leicester players commit. It's harder to play through. Ndombele drops into the space and is trying to draw out the midfielders and break the press. He receives the ball with two players drawn to him. This is a great opportunity for him to beat the press, but he was beaten to the ball. Tottenham need Ndombele to be showing more in these situations to create attacking situations and control games. As a number 10, Ndombele is required to press higher up the pitch. In some cases, only he presses, and this is because of Tottenham's man-to-man press. They only press with one player at a time, and Ndombele may use a lot of energy doing this. When defending deep, Ndombele is one of the players used to start counter-attacks. He needs to spring the attack, but he shows a lack of composure. This is when Ndombele needs to come alive and help break the pass to create the counter-attack. But a lack of composure, and he gives the ball back to Leicester. His second attempt, and he plays the ball behind Son, and Tottenham can't find an outlet. He's not at his best. Mourinho prefers two midfielders who can support the defence, but because Sissoko and Højbjerg are not progressive players, they have to bypass the central area. When teams press high, Tottenham will always bypass the centre and try to get the ball into Lo Celso, Kane or Ndombele. They're most progressive ball players. Lo Celso and Ndombele are not physically big players, and they prefer the ball to feet, which makes long high passes more difficult for them to get in control of, and Tottenham often give the ball back. Construction and Moussa Sissoko. So a lack of players willing to come into the central area to construct is a problem. Sissoko lacks technical ability to work as a pivot or start the construction, and this puts the team under pressure. Construction. So Sissoko often comes centrally to receive, but he's not the most technical player, and is not great when being pressed. He's also not trusted. This is why Tottenham decide to play more long passes into the channels. But the opposition could just put two defenders onto the runner and stop them from getting space. Because Sissoko is not the best technically with the ball, he does not have the confidence or agility to move the ball into tighter spaces. Instead, he hesitates and decides to play the safe pass. One problem Tottenham face when using Sissoko is his inability to switch play and move the ball quickly. Sissoko's lack of agility means that he can't get his body around the ball and change direction. And Sissoko has two passing options to open up the pitch, but because he's not comfortable with both feet, he hesitates. And Sissoko could not shift the ball quick enough and the space is closed down. Tottenham need a better ball player in these situations. This time, Lo Celso drops deep to collect the ball and construct an attack. He has more technical ability and more progressive play than Sissoko. Instead of playing a safe pass, Lo Celso plays a pass with more progression and urgency. And because he dropped deep and played with more progression, he was able to pick up space undetected in between the lines. But Reguilón was slow with the pass and the move breaks down. Mourinho may want to consider using Lo Celso deeper or replacing Sissoko with a more technical capable box-to-box player. And it causes Tottenham to put themselves under pressure because they're not being decisive when in attacking transition. First, Sissoko goes backwards. Then Sissoko and Lo Celso fail to take ownership of the out pass. Lo Celso wins the ball back, but he has no outlet. All of Tottenham's players are behind him, and he loses the ball. Because Tottenham sit deep to defend, their midfielders need to react quicker and provide passing angles to spring counter-attacks. In this situation, they didn't. Solutions. So, what can Tottenham do? They can replace Sissoko with a more technically accomplished player. They can drop one of Lo Celso or Ndombele into the 8 role, and they can certainly start to switch play more. Attitude. So the system requires players to play with urgency and accuracy. Slow transitions make it harder for Tottenham to break defences down, and Mourinho wants his players to make better and quicker decisions in these transitions. So late in the half, Tottenham started to play with a bit more urgency, with Lo Celso dropping deeper. Tottenham make quicker decisions in the transition, and because they make the quicker exchanges and are more progressive, they can play into the channels. Forced changes. So Mourinho tries to adjust, using Lo Celso in the 8 role. Bale comes on as an extra attacking threat, but Lo Celso gets injured early. He was key to this setup, the high line. So Tottenham are not set up to chase games when losing. The centre-backs are not suitable for a high line, and more risks are needed, but this is not Mourinho's style to take risks. Tottenham's defence is pushed higher than normal because they are chasing the game. They have to push higher. Dyer is not a good defender in the high line and has problems with balls played in behind. Toby doesn't have the pace to match quick players, and it was easy for Maddison to get close in front of goal. Tottenham may want to bring in a quicker defender for these solutions. So Spurs could sign a quicker centre-back who can play in a high line. They could also start games stronger to prevent a risk of conceding late, and they could add more variation to play, so goals come from different sources. Chasing the game. So Tottenham are chasing the game. They start to make more longer passes into the channels. They have zero ability to construct from the centre of the pitch, and there's not a lot of trust in using Sissoko in the middle. So passing up opportunities. Lucas receives the ball and has an opportunity to get the ball into Sissoko to start a construction. Either Sissoko did not demand the ball, or Lucas was too slow to realise the opportunity, but another promising attack breaks down. It's because of this that Tottenham don't use the central midfield to construct attacks. With both Lo Celso and NDOMBELE off the pitch, Tottenham have no central options in the construction, and they have to go long and look for runners in the channels instead. However, it's way too easy for the opposition to defend. The pass needs to be early and accurate, and Tottenham's attackers are anticipating any second ball in this space. Spurs press to win the ball, and Reguilon makes a deep run in behind. A missed opportunity, so Højbjerg sees the pass, but he needs to play it perfectly. The pass was lifted into the air too long and isn't in front of Reguilon, so Tottenham miss a passer like Eriksen to make the most of these situations. Gareth Bale, so he likes to drift wide or stays in the central area closer to goal. He looks to commit players, but is he the same player? So in this situation, Bale looks to receive the ball in the half space. Because of his shooting and crossing ability, Bale looks to shift the ball onto his left foot so he can open the pitch and shoot or cross. Leicester block the spaces, which makes it hard for Bale to work an angle in this situation. Again, Bale is looking to take on his man and get into a shooting, crossing position. This opens possibilities for passes to players in good positions. You can see Kane and Son in good situations. And even though Bale still gets past players, he has lost that extra explosiveness that makes him difficult to stop, and Leicester stop him. Kane, the focal point. So Kane drops deep to receive the ball. He draws out defenders and likes to spread the ball to the fullbacks, and the ball comes into Kane from the side of the pitch. So Spurs try to get the ball into the half spaces and use Kane as a focal point. He drops deep to receive and create, and this creates space for the fullbacks to advance into. On this occasion, the pass was a little bit behind Aurier, and this allowed the defence to shape the low block. Here, Bale finds himself in the space on the other side. He will look for Kane as the focal point. So Bale finds Kane in the central area, and he can lay it to the runners, Son in this case. But Son doesn't use the space and returns the pass to Kane. This gives the Leicester defenders the chance to recover. Tottenham needed to do better in these situations. Finally, Tottenham are able to play it early into Kane to set a counter-attack. And because they played it quickly, they're finally able to work a counter. But they failed with the final pass. Tottenham needed to work these situations more in the first half, but because they didn't play with urgency, they lost the chance. So how can Tottenham improve? They could use Lo Celso or Ndombele as an 8 to take the initiative. They could also sign a technically accomplished box-to-box midfielder who can do the defensive duties as well. They can also start games with more urgency and precision. So what do you think? Should Jose trust Ndombele as an 8 more? Should he take more risks against weaker sides? Remember to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more of these videos. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.